everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Scenes Worship Podcast. My name is Sarai Scott, and today we're going to be talking about the audience of one. Now, total transparency, I have recorded this episode. This is my third time recording this episode because I keep having like technical issues. I don't know what is going on, and then I keep getting tongue-tied, and it's just so much happening. So hopefully this time will be my last time like recording this, and this will be a good take. So anyways, audience of one, right? So we hear that a lot in worship circles. And I just want to say that while I understand the sentiment behind it, I don't necessarily agree. And here's why, right? So number one, let's just say, let's just talk about the sentiment behind the phrase audience of one, right? So we understand that we don't offer our worship to anyone but God, right? He is the one that we're looking to please. His heart is the one that we're looking to please. It doesn't matter if people like the song choice, if they like who's leading, like it doesn't matter because we are there to please and sing praises to the Lord only, period, right? However, the phrase audience of one, it's just not true because yes, we're singing to God. Yes, he's listening, but there's also people literally sitting in the congregation who's listening too, who is an audience, right? So looking at the definition of audience, it means the assembled spectators or listeners at a public event. And that's what a congregation is. They are sitting, they have assembled themselves, and they are sitting and they are listening at this corporate public worship service. And so we cannot discount the aesthetics or the beauty in our sound in those corporate worship settings. Now, hear me out, right? Like aesthetics rubs people the wrong way because we're in this social media age where we hear the word aesthetics and our brain automatically goes to Instagram, right? And those perfectly curated pictures with the perfect lighting and the perfect makeup, perfect outfits, and everything is beige and white. And, like everything is just perfect, right? But that's not what aesthetics means. Aesthetics doesn't mean perfect. Here is the definition of aesthetics. Aesthetics means a set of principles concerned with the nature and appreciation of beauty, especially in art. Now, music, singing, all of those are expressions of art. And so we cannot discount that there is a beauty to that we should be striving to, I'll say it like this, steward our sound well so that we can present well to the Lord, but also present well in front of people. Now, why does that matter? Because in corporate worship settings, we want people to worship with us, right? We want them to join in with us. But if we haven't stewarded our sound well and we've given no appreciation or attention to the beauty, to the aesthetics of our sound, like people are going to be distracted. People are going to be like, I may not be able to sing, I may not be able to play an instrument, but I know that wasn't right, and so they're looking at us confused more than they're engaging in worship because it's like, this just does not sound like, it don't sound right. And so it's not the fact that we're trying to please them, but we are trying to present well, not only, for God, but also for them, right? And so I think sometimes we use audience of one kind of like we use make a joyful noise. We say these things to take the pressure off of us to actually do our due diligence to prepare well, and that's not to say that, everybody has the musical ability to perfect things or be technical or whatever. But like I said, just do your due diligence to make sure that we are presenting or that you are presenting the best that you possibly can. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. But it means that God, we are presenting the best that we possibly can. Why? Because you deserve it. Why? Because you're worth it. Which leads me to my second point, that doing our due diligence to make sure that we have a standard of beauty, and that we're mindful of aesthetics in our worship is for God too, right? Because the reality is that God is not accepting no raggedy worship. He not. It's a hard truth, but it's the truth nonetheless, that God does not accept any and everybody's worship. And we can look at the Bible for that. Genesis 4, Cain and Abel. Right? So we have Cain, who it just says that he offered the fruit of the ground to the Lord. But it never talks about what were the aesthetics of Cain's sacrifice. What was the beauty in Cain's sacrifice? We don't know. We don't know if Cain chose the best to give to the Lord, because all it just says is the fruit of the ground. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that he just picked it up on the side of the road? Like, was it bruised? Was it full grown? Like, what was the standard of beauty for his sacrifice? We don't know. But what we do know is that God rejected it. And then we have Abel, where the beauty and the aesthetics of his sacrifice was told to us, right? It talks about how it was the first of his flock, and he gave the fat of that, right? And in this agricultural society, taking, from your flock and from your livestock meant that you were taking from your livelihood, because stock is how how they made money. It's how they ate. It's where they got, their clothing from. It's where they, probably made their shelter from, or maybe even some weapons were made, from this livestock. But Abel took from his livestock and said, well, Father, I think that you're worth this. I think that you are worth this sacrifice. It costs me to give you this, but you're worth this. So that was the beauty. That was the aesthetics of his sacrifice. And so those of us who are just, talking about, we got an audience of one and we're just making a joyful noise and not being a good steward over your sound, you're kind of like Cain, where you just pick up anything, just offer any kind of fruit. And while you're talking about, I'm doing this for the audience of one is not even receiving it. And it's not because of the sacrifice, but it's because of the heart posture behind the sacrifice. If your heart is postured right before the Lord, you're going to do your due diligence to make sure that your sacrifice is the best quality that you can produce. I personally don't think that it mattered that it was Cain, that Cain's offering was fruit and that Abel's offering was meat. I don't think it mattered, but it was the heart posture that mattered. It was the quality of sacrifice that mattered. So as much as we have to make sure that we really are pleasing the audience of one, that we really are pleasing God with our sacrifice, we do also need to be mindful of the fact that there are more people in the audience that are listening and that could be distracted by our failure to steward well. We have to be mindful of that. But at the core of it, at the heart of it, we have to make sure that our audience of one is actually really pleased with our sacrifice and is actually really receiving our sacrifice. Because as we've seen in Genesis 4, just because you offer something doesn't mean that it's going to be accepted. So this is a short episode, but that's been on my heart to share for a while. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any comments or questions, make sure you put those in the comment section below. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye.